Said, I want to leave you all with one last thing, my New Year's resolution. And 2026, my New Year's resolution is just not to force anything, not to force people, not to force dating, not to force love, not to force clients in any aspect of my life. I don't want to force anybody to speak to me, to work with me, to go on a date with me. I kind of just want to let things flow, right? I want to let things flow. I want to not force anything. And I think that as long as I can continue doing that, we're gonna be much happier, we're gonna be healthier.
Welcome to UndocuStartup by Juan Maya Hernandez.
Welcome to the vlog, y'all. I'm gonna give you all a little secret, okay? So right now, I am currently passing by some of these houses. Check them out. Like, look at these houses. They look amazing. All right, they look amazing, right? And one of the things that I do, regardless of where the business is, regardless of how much money I make, is I drive around these houses because I want one of these houses in the future, or I want some of these houses in the future, and it allows me to think in terms of abundance that there's enough, and it allows me to dream, right? Like the thing about me is, I think the hardest part about building a business is really that self-belief. You know, that self-belief when things don't go your way, that self-belief that things are gonna work out eventually, is essentially what keeps me going, you know? And it's also about being grateful for everything that you've accomplished this year, right? Like this year, it's been a great year for UndocuStartup. And I've learned so much. But like, just looking at these houses, it just motivates me, you know? I'm like, okay, like, I don't think these people are better than me. I also don't think that it's impossible for me to not get there. I just think it takes some time, and I have full belief that I'm gonna get there. You know, I have full belief I'll be able to reach my goals. I came from a low-income background, right? I had epilepsy when I was younger, right? I aspire to be wealthy in the future. Like, it's not something that I shy away from. It's not something that I'm just like, oh, it's not gonna happen because X, Y, Z. No, like, yeah, things happen, and we all come from different backgrounds. But at the end of the day, right, like, all these success stories, all these successful people, I mean, they just motivate me. You know, they just essentially motivate me to continue. And I just wanted to share that with y'all. So like, if you can, I guess the biggest takeaway here is, if you can step into a world where you think of abundance, when you tell yourself things are gonna work out eventually, if you can just live in that, you're pretty much gonna be in a good place. Because I think entrepreneurship, a lot of it is just being an optimist. A lot of it is being an optimist, regardless of the circumstances. And I did that my first year when I quit my job. I did that the second year, okay, and then I did that the third year, right? The first official year, I was doing it part-time. Second year, I did it full-time. Third year, I did it full-time. So yeah, I'll leave that with that. So allow yourself to dream. If that means you go to a really expensive hotel you sit on, go ahead and do that, as long as it makes you feel like you can get there, and take it as a sign from God that you're gonna get there, right? Like, when I met the investors of Grubhub, Giphy, and Snapchat, it was sort of like God was telling me, hey, you're supposed to be in this room because you're gonna be here someday. You might get there someday, you know? And I think as long as we live there, there's really nothing that can stop us. All right, y'all. Well, first and foremost, I want to wish you all a happy new year. I am wishing you all the best this year, all the success, all the love, all the happiness you can all receive. And I'll start off with that. I want to end up with some lessons from 2025 that I'm taking into 2026 on the business side, and then on the personal side, I want to talk about just one resolution. All right, and I have all the lessons right here written down, so we're gonna jump right into it. Lesson number 1, on the business side, hire based on performance, not emotion. One of the biggest mistakes that I made this year was hiring people because I felt like they needed the opportunity. Huge mistake, ended up costing me thousands. And I am no longer going to do that. When I hire somebody, I'm going to make sure that it's based on performance. Lesson number 2 is to have and focus on one flagship service or product. When you look at the big companies this year, I really started looking at how did the founders of McDonald's build the business, right? How did Ray Kroc build the business? How did KFC build the business? How did the founder of Home Depot build this business? And if there's one thing that comes to mind is that they always just focused on one thing. When you go to In-N-Out, you only buy burgers. When you go to a doctor, you don't go to a doctor that can also paint, that can also do dentistry. No, you go for a specialist. And that's something that has helped me this year grow the business, right? Like having and focusing on one flagship service. Right now, I'm currently known for the bootcamp, and I want to continue that way going into 2026. Lesson number 3 is to plan for next year right now. So that means that I should start having conversations now. I should start having conversations at any moment. So even if we don't land something this year, can we land something for next year? So like that we don't deal with cash flow problems. Lesson number 4 is to act fast. All right, speed loves money. So take less time from sending a proposal, take less time from getting back to somebody. People really value that. I went from sending my proposals in 2 days with my potential clients to sending my proposals in the same day within an hour or so. And I'm trying to get that much faster. The way that I'm going to get there is just having templates, having prices, all that stuff ready to go. Lesson number 5 is to meet clients where they currently are. So one of the reasons why I didn't end up working with clients this year was because of the budget constraints, was because they're experiencing budget cuts. So going into 2026, I'm trying to look at is there something else that I can make? Not shying away from the flagship offer of the bootcamp, but that it could be more accessible to more partners, so I could continue building the credibility, continue to bring entrepreneurship into every single campus that has undocumented students. So that's another big lesson right there. So meet them where they're at, and I am already brainstorming that, looking at that. Lesson number 6 is to budget smart, right? Because one of the biggest things that might kill my business, like I mentioned, is just running out of money, right? So we have clients. We're able to live off of what we make because we have low amount of costs. But one of the things that I haven't been doing the best at is just budgeting, right? Like looking at my numbers. I tend to look at my numbers every quarter. Maybe I start looking at my numbers every month, every week. So like that, I'm like, okay, I'm making sure that I'm investing in the right things, really looking at the ROI. I think I've made some investments that we didn't really see a return, but I need to be more strategic on that. Lesson number 7 is to understand your bottleneck and do something about it, right? Like I told you on my bottleneck is the cash flow, right? And again, we're still very early on in the business where cash flow is still going to be an issue. But at the end of the day, I have to do something about it. Whether that's a part-time job, that's something in the cards, right? Like we're looking for that. Whether it's for coming up with a new offer within the business so that we can continue to scale this, that's also another thing. Whether it's to reach out to more people outside of where we're currently operating in, we're going to have to do that. All right. Now, lesson number 8 is to go all in. All right. If there's one thing that I've learned, the first year when I had this idea, I tested it. I was doing it part-time. When you go full-time, when I went full-time, I increased by 3x the amount that I did the first year on the second year. Then this is like the third year, but it's officially my second full-time year doing this business full-time. And I'm continuing to grow, y'all. But this growth has come from just focusing on the business, going all in, trying to make the offer better, trying to reach out to more people. And essentially, one of the things that I realized is to get to my goals, I'm going to need to go all in either on one side. And the thing about me is, do I burn all the boats and just go all in? So far, when I've done that in 2024 and 2025, it's worked out. Like, yes, we deal with cash flow problems, but it hasn't gotten to the point where I ran out of money. I had to borrow something, right? Maybe I've had 1-2 weeks where I needed money, but it hasn't gotten to the point where I'm going broke, right? And I think that's the most important thing that I'm looking at moving forward. Number 9 is to either find a part-time job or a new offer for cash flow management. right? Cash flow. When I talk about cash flow, I just mean, is there enough money coming in every single month, right? I haven't. Maybe I've shared this a little bit, but essentially the way that my business worked in 2025 was January we had a good month, then February we kind of went down, we don't have nobody, then in April we had something else, well, again we went down, so we were just burning money, and then we go up back up again with the income. And that's what I mean by cash flow. Like, not that we don't make enough, it's just the frequency of it is not there. And I have a few ideas on there, but again, right, like, we're gonna have to make a decision eventually, whether getting a part-time role or just doing the business full-time again. I mean, coming up with a new offer, that's another lesson. Lesson number 10 is that brand is everything. This year was the year that I rebranded to UndocuStartup from Prepare. So the name of my LLC is Prepare because I wanted to build a brand around that concept, right? I've always said, like, if undocumented entrepreneurs were given the tools, they knew how to prepare, imagine where they would be successfully, right? If they were given the tools, the resources, the people, the allies, the tools. And that's what initially happened. But about a year ago, I did meet this DACA millionaire, and I told him about my vision, and he told me, why don't you name it something that is more in alignment with what you're trying to build? And at that time, about 2 years ago, my concept was to build an immigrant biz hub. That was essentially like an MVP that I launched. I ended up moving away from that because I was like, I don't want to help out all immigrants right now. I want to focus on my niche of Undocu students. And that's why I rebranded to UndocuStartup. And what I realized is that the reason why students end up joining my programs is because they've heard good things about UndocuStartup, right? So if the brand is pulling you from there, then that's a good sign. I started asking questions. What does UndocuStartup mean to you, to the students, right? I started asking questions. I started getting more testimonials from allies that do care about this community. And I think as long as I can continue in that trajectory, people are going to continue wanting to support, partner, and join the UndocuStartup program. So brand is really everything, especially as we're moving into an AI era. So I'm looking at, like, the content strategy for 2026. Maybe we do a little bit more lives. Maybe we do a live stream. Maybe we do a lot more behind the scenes. Maybe we dive into these vlogs, right? Additionally, and that's something that I want to continue doing. So brand is everything, really, right? If you're able to build a brand, people are gonna come to you. All right, lesson number 11 is to reach out to past clients. I was reading this book, and it talks about there's really only 3 ways to grow your company. You get new clients, you get people to pay you more, the ones that already bought from you, or you get people to come back, right? And when I read those 3 lines, I was like, okay, to get new people in the door, I need to send out more cold emails. To get repeat clients, I need to try to figure out a way to lock them in for a longer time. And that's how I came up with the yearly partnership. And that ended up working. I landed my first yearly partnership, way bigger deal size, way bigger proposal than if I were just to do a one boot camp, and we're testing it out. We're going to see how it goes. We're going to get some feedback. We're going to send out surveys. And we're currently in the process right now, so I'll probably make a video after this. Yeah, if you're looking for a way to get more clients from the people, as long as you have an emailing list, as long as you have their contact information and you understand how much money they invested in you, try to reach out to them and be like, hey, would you be interested, right? And that is something that has helped me this year to grow this company, get new partnerships, talk to different people, and whatnot. And then the last lesson, which is probably the most important one on the personal life, on the personal side, and also on the business side, is to not compare my life with somebody else's life. All right. So, for example, and I was having this conversation with my siblings, is like, all right, so I see some of my friends. They are moving out. They are with their girlfriend. They are, some of my friends want to get married. Some of my friends, they're going to have a child, right? And I tend to look at their life, and they also have a good job. And I tend to look at their life, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had that, right? And that's why then this comparison comes in, where I'm just like, I wish I had a girlfriend. I wish I lived on my own. I wish I did all these things, right? But at the same time, my life has never been linear in the way that people get a good job, they find their girlfriend, they move out, they do this. My life has always been a little different. My path has always been a little different. When I take a look at my high school, right? I filmed these vlogs in high school. I filmed my prom. I filmed a lot of stuff during high school. And that was that was like already proof, right? When I was in college, when I was at UCLA, my path was also not linear, right? Like it took me 5 years to graduate. In my last year or so, I was actually a part-time student because I actually could not handle taking four classes a quarter because it was just too much for me. So my path has always been linear, right? I mean, my path has never been linear in the same way that it's been for other people. All right. When I think about getting a part-time job, the question has never been about do I want a part-time job or do I not. I understand one thing about me. When I was in a job, I felt like at the beginning you're learning. I'm learning marketing. I'm learning SMS. I'm learning how to sell in person at my previous job. But eventually I hit a plateau. And I tend to get bored when I hit that plateau. I tend to get bored when things get complacent. I tend to get bored when things get easy. That was part of the reason why I chose a STEM degree at UCLA, and I stuck with a STEM degree no matter how long it would take me, because I tend to gravitate towards things that are a little bit more difficult. And that's already like one proof, right? And when we look at my goals, there's people that think in billions, there's people that think in millions, there's people that think in thousands, there's people that think in hundreds. And I just tend to think a little bit different than other people because I've been exposed to different people. I've been exposed to people that are raising money, the investors Grubhub, Giphy, and Snapchat. I've been exposed to people that have raised $500,000 through my accelerator programs, through my experience being around these people, right? So when I take a look at my real question, am I willing to continue building the business at the expense of not growing like some of my friends are growing, right? Like not being able to move out when I want to, not being able to have my partner when I want to. But yeah, it was sort of like a big realization that I was just like, maybe I'm comparing myself too much, and I shouldn't, really do that going into 2026. So those are the 12 lessons. So essentially, I don't want to continue comparing myself. And everybody's thought of success is a little different. Everybody's thought of happiness is a little different. I personally enjoy the work that I do. I personally enjoy filming these videos. I personally enjoy, growing the biggest business in town and then uplifting others. That's always been my mission, right? Like imagine we get to the point where UndocuStartup has this huge media empire, and then we're able to bring on people, we're able to do interviews, we're able to have a seed fund, we're able to have a venture capital fund for all of our founders. I think that that's the ultimate vision, and I think that as long as I can stick to that, and I'm okay with delaying other aspects of my life, I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay. And again, like when I do apply to part-time jobs, this always comes back, right? Like when I was applying to a part-time job, I'm always like, so I'm going for, $1,000, $2,000 extra to seek this stability, but at what expense, right? Like, am I really gonna be happy? I've been down that road. I don't know if I will be happy, especially when you start making like more money that is not tied to personal time. I mean, you're like, okay, if you had to choose two paths, you obviously choose the path that makes you more money and you bring more impact. And that's what UndocuStartup does to me. I get excited to build UndocuStartup. I might not get excited building somebody else's company because it's not their dream. I mean, that's their dream. It's not my dream, right? But this is to be continued, This is to be continued. But yeah, now with that being said, I want to leave you all with one last thing. My New Year's resolution. In 2026, my New Year's resolution is just not to force anything, not to force people, not to force dating, not to force love, not to force clients in any aspect of my life. I don't want to force anybody to speak to me, to work with me, to go on a date with me. I kind of just want to let things flow, right? I want to let things flow. I want to not force anything. And I think that as long as I can continue doing that, we're going to be much happier. We're going to be healthier. And I just want to try to focus on myself a little bit more. Maybe for others it might be a little selfish, but in 2025 I got injured a lot, right? I got injured. Health wasn't like one of my biggest, strongest suits in 2025, but in 2026 that is something I want to focus on. But essentially my New Year's resolution is just to not force anything. All right. So with that being said, everyone, again, I want to wish you all a happy new year. I'm wishing you all the success, all the happiness. I hope you can continue, in this journey. I'm still going to stick to the schedule once a week of vlog. And we decide to do the weekly episodes as well. We're going to do those as well. But yeah, let me know what your New Year's resolution is. by leaving a comment down below, and I'm gonna respond. So thank you all so much for watching. Be motivated and stay motivated, baby. I'll talk to you soon.